Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Out of the Park 23, your Minnesota Twins. I'm Quirky Guy, and things have been going interestingly for these first 2 months of the year. The first thing that I want to do to show you the turning point of this season is right here, where Gary Sanchez pinch ran for Byron Buxton. That happened. 2 to 3 more weeks. Sprained his thumb. About a 6-week injury. Date of injury was April 30th of this year. Well, if we take a look at our info, you'll notice that in April we were 13-8. We got off to a pretty decent start with Buxton in the lineup. We were, I believe, at that point in time, second in runs scored. We're still fourth. And then Buxton left, and so did the rest of the team. We're 9-21 in May. Very symbolic game happened very recently, where in our stretch of games against Kansas City, we decided to lose 18-4. So, a couple of things that have been done here. First thing was in our bullpen, we were having some issues. This is very satisfying to do as a Minnesota Twins fan right now. We traded away Tyler Duffy. We also traded away Danny Coulombe, who was struggling mightily. A catcher who isn't really anything. Maybe if this is a high end, this could maybe be a guy, but I think it's probably not. The reliever is probably nothing as well. As well as Aaron Sabato, who is definitely the biggest piece that I gave up in this trade. He was struggling for me, hasn't hit super well. Looks like he's hitting better now that he's in their organization, and maybe I will regret giving him up. But in exchange for that, I got 4 pieces that I'm fairly excited about. Clay Holmes is the major league piece that I wanted to get back. Has the 5.23 ERA, 6.30 FIP, looks bad. But if you actually look at this appearances he's made for me, it's just all this. It's this 18-4 where he gave up 5 runs. Other than that, he's been pretty much lights out. And then 3 minor leaguers. Zach Green and Nick Ernst are minor league pieces that I think have potential, really especially Green, the 65 potential stuff. And Ernst is again another piece that I think could turn into something. This to me was the other highlight, is Marcos Cabrera, who I think is just a better version of Sabato, to be entirely honest. So I feel pretty good about this trade that I made to hopefully improve both my minor league situation and my major league team. It hasn't super worked. You can see I made this trade in the beginning of May. There's some more things that I'm looking into that you will probably see in the next video trade-wise. But this is kind of where we are right now. The offense has been pretty decent. Even after the Buxton injury, we're still 4th in runs scored, 4th in kind of a lot of these stats. We're 2nd in home runs. Runs against is where you're going to start to see some of the problems, namely the starting ERA of 4.97. So our bullpen's been pretty decent, but this is something that we're going to have to figure out. So if we look at kind of where we are team-wise right now, I'm going to do a quick sort by WRC+. Jose Miranda's only been up for 7 games. You'll notice Miguel Sano is down here. I talked in the last video about how he's not making it to next year. I don't think he's going to survive the year if Miranda plays anything like what he is right now. But Alex Kirilloff is a stud. There's the 135 WRC plus 136 OPS plus, 14 doubles already. On base 362. I mean, this is a guy that I'm is going to be one of the building blocks of the team moving forward. I think he's kind of proving that this year. Gio Urshela is looking more like the 2019-2020 version of himself. He's hitting the ball very, very well. 7 home runs even. Yeah, I mean, the offense just in general, Jorge Polanco's looking good. Urshela's making a case for himself. I'm actually curious about this. I haven't looked super closely at this. Okay. So the defense is a concern then, that zone rating. Yeah, we're probably looking at keeping Urshela around for next year, but beyond that, I don't really know. He'd be 31, going on. I mean, he'd be 32 years old after finishing out his arbitration years. So I don't know that extending him past that is going to be very useful. And then we come into two of the interesting cases of with where the team is right now. If we can't figure out pitching that, like I'm going to try to do to get us back into contention, I think Kepler and Correa are both gone at the deadline. Correa is just not going to be a like I just don't think spending this type of money on one player for a team that's below 500 just makes any sense whatsoever. I mean, he's been great. He's on pace for a 6-WAR season. Like, that's really good. It's worth the money. But I just think that realistically, I can probably get a lot of pieces for him that will make that achievable. Kepler, I mean, just kind of like what we said before, as much as my wife will hate me for it, we have pieces in the outfield that will probably be bringing in some when we move Correa. And we have Kirilloff, we have Urshela. Miranda, I gave some time in right field to the point where he's okay. I mean, he's probably going to play more first and third for me, but he's available out there that I don't see Kepler as... I think he has more value in a trade than he does to the team at this point in time. Celestino is pretty much up just for... because Buxton's hurt and because he can play the outfield fairly well. I wish that range was 65 to make him a better center fielder. Because right now I'm kind of having to play Kepler in center, but it works okay. The catcher position has been rough for me. Jeffers at 96, like, this is fine. He is more of a bat first catcher. Like, I'd like this to be a little bit higher for him to really be a catcher. But I mean, if he puts up 1 WAR, like, that's fine. Sanchez is gone. Like, I don't see a world in which this turns itself around to a point where he's worth paying whatever he's going to cost for this. I mean, even at this contract of just keeping him at that $8 million, like, there's just no way. Arise is a problem, and it's one that I'm not super sure how to deal with, because like, he's okay defensively, but like, realistically, like, I don't want to play him anywhere defensively. I want him to just be this bat. But right now, I guess the thing I should look at is, what is the BABIP? Batting stats. I mean, the BABIP's lower, it's 30 points lower, but I mean, that doesn't explain all of it. I mean, obviously the slugging will always be low, but this needs to be 300. Like, if Arise isn't hitting 300 plus, then what's the value there? Something where I might have to consider shopping him at the very least, which I don't really want to do, but it's something that I'm going to have to consider over the next couple of months. So no, I'm going to try to trade him now. We'll see if a team that is struggling at first base is open to trading for him, even though I'm not really going to play him. Potentially there's an option with Boston. There's something that I've kind of been looking at because they have been doing well. but they struggle at first base because they're playing Travis Shaw, I believe. Yeah, as their first baseman. So we're gonna mess around with this and see if there is a way that we can make something work. Because Boston is in the thick of the wild card race right now. So potentially they might be willing to make that trade for Sano, who does, I mean, he has 10 home runs. But that's sort of a thing that we'll probably see in the next video what we end up doing with Sano. But that's the lineup, which is the better thing to see. Now the pitching. Pitching has been our main problem. Paddock and Bundy have both been like decent. Nothing super special. Somehow Dylan Bundy's probably been our best pitcher. Sonny Gray's just unlucky. Like he has the 4.7 ERA, but the FIP tells a very different story of the 78%, 78 FIP minus, meaning he's 22% better than league average by that metric. He's striking out people, he's not walking people, he's not giving up home runs. Just unlucky. So we'll kind of see what happens there if that can kind of come back down to earth, or if he can actually be the staff ace, that'd be good. Joe Ryan has been a problem for me this year, and it's not really even something that FIP says there's massive regression coming like it does for Sonny Gray. Home runs are down. I mean, it's a walks problem for him right now. There's 3 walks per 9 and only 7 strikeouts per 9 compared to the 10 plus that he's been putting up, makes there be more question marks here. You'll notice that Bailey Ober's not up here. He's down in AAA because he's been even worse. We've tried a couple of different options. Josh Winder's going to be the next one to get a shot. Hasn't even been great at AAA, but he's on the 40-man, which gives him the advantage over Balazovic there. But we're going to give him a try and kind of see how this goes. Hopefully he can stick and be an effective piece. As far as our bullpen goes, the back end has been pretty good. Duran, Thielbar, Cotton have all been outstanding. I mean, especially Duran, the 142 ERA, 13 strikeouts per 9, 30 innings. I mean, he's been the best pitcher on the team for sure, which makes sense. You kind of almost expect him to be. Rel Cotton's been a pleasant surprise for me this year, where he's just been outstanding, and the FIP is even not much higher than the ERA. So hopefully this is a guy that we can hold on to for a year or two and get some good value out of. Let him continue to be effective. Chris Archer's been pretty effective in long relief, or was for the first month. There was a point in May, like early May, where his ERA was like 1.1. And then he's kind of regressed back to the mean, which is why I haven't tried him in the starting rotation. Also, just the walks. This is just way too high to be an effective starter. Like, there's just no way that you're getting the type of value out of him that you would hope for as a starter, as opposed to having him go 3 innings there. But we've been going through pieces. A lot of the guys on the 40-man have had options up here. Beck had a couple starts. He was awful. Smeltzer was okay for a little bit and then started to struggle again, so he went back down. There's definitely going to be some more messing around with some options here. Sort of unfortunate that some of the pieces I would like to send down don't really have options, so we'll kind of see where we end up going with this. The bullpen, though, somehow isn't really something I'm actually super worried about at the moment. Like, there's a couple of kind of periphery pieces that are problematic, but that's definitely not the main problem with the team right now. It's definitely, we need more starting pitching. Hopefully Weiner can give us a jolt, otherwise it's going to have to be try to make some trades and get the lineup kind of back on track. But really, starting pitching is a problem. Now, the other thing to talk about is prospects. Start with the hitters. Rookie ball hasn't started yet, so nothing there. Kavelko and Rodriguez have both been really good. Um, Kavelko is we're going to promote to high A here, as well as Rodriguez, who's just been absurd. Again, I really if this guy was a center fielder, he would be so good. But that 55 outfield range, that's just not gonna play in center field. See here, that's that -6 zone rating in 40 games. Like he's a great bat, but he's just not a center fielder, which unfortunately does limit his value somewhat. Jordan Gore will talk about when we get to the pitchers. Julian's been decent. The problem here is that he's kind of blocked in AAA by Steer, and we could kind of call him up to play third in AAA, but realistically, I think we're going to let him probably just play out the year in AA unless Steer comes up to the majors, which is not out of the question. Austin Martin, look at that on base percentage. In 23 games, a 495 on base. Like, this is crazy. He is unfortunately out for multiple more weeks. The slugging is funny how much lower that is than the on base. But, I mean, maybe. If this contact can keep edging up, these were both 45s before. So, I really hope that he can develop. Matt Wallner has raked. He's another guy who is getting a promotion to AAA. And if we go in we look at our news segment here, and we look at back-to-back weeks of being the best bat in AA. Yeah, I mean, this is just another one of those options that we have for our corner outfielders and the reasons why we are willing to move Kepler. This is a problem. Trevor Larnack has done nothing in AAA this year to justify bringing him up. This is kind of pre him sort of starting to break out this year in the majors, but he's struggling. Royce is also struggling. Fielding stats I almost don't super care about because I've been having him play second base. We are almost full there, and then we'll move him around. We might move him to third or the outfield next. I haven't fully decided yet on what we want to do with him. Spencer Steer has hit really, really well. Point where he could be a guy that we might even call up and give some playing time in the majors this year if the team kind of goes and continues to struggle. And Celestino and Miranda are in the majors. We've talked about them. So the pitchers, Hajar's been pretty good. He was their, I believe, second round draft pick. Doesn't say here. I believe he was their second round draft pick last year out of Michigan. It was a college arm. There's potential to look at promoting him. I think that'll be more of a trade deadline consideration of whether or not we want to promote him. Basically, for me, as I look at player development, I look at my minors, I mostly look to promote kind of around now. So kind of that's June 1st. Mostly if players have kind of if they're at the place where they ended last year, then this will be a time. Otherwise, I think it's a little aggressive unless they're like elite prospects. I'll look around the trade deadline then at the end of the year. So Hajar is probably a guy that will be in around the trade deadline. If he's still doing this well, then he'll probably get a promotion. Bentley's been pretty bad. Enlow, we're still waiting to come back from UCL surgery. Jordan Gore's been pretty good. He's technically a two-way player. He's not really a hitter though. We might just want to get rid of that and have him just be a pitcher. He's been a pretty good one. So yeah, I think we are actually going to go ahead and promote him to AAA as well. Zach Green's one of the pieces we traded for. Enriquez has been pretty bad. Fortunately, the FIP says he's been a little bit unlucky, but that 4.5 walks is not great. McGill has been pretty good. The FIP is incredible. Honestly, at 28, he probably shouldn't be in AA. He should probably just be in AAA at that age. Varland is kind of an edge case for promotion. He's only ever been elite. Except the FIP is the question. This is why I'm going to hold him there. If the FIP was sub 3, then I'd very much be considering promoting him. But I think for now, we leave him and see kind of how he does it going up to the trade deadline. Woods Richardson hasn't been great. Balazovic is... The ERA is coming back down. You can see it was at 5, but he's had a pretty good month in May to bring that ERA down so far. The FIP is still high. He is a top 100 prospect, so I'm going to be a little bit more cautious with him and not worry too much about starting that clock for service time in the majors. And we'll just kind of let this work itself out. But odds are, I think, are pretty decent that he will see at least some starts in the majors this year. Cano's been really good, is probably the next piece that I'm going to be looking to bring up. Just even though he's not on the 40-man, I still have a little bit of space, and he's been really good, even if the FIP says he's been a little bit lucky. But as that high movement, extreme ground ball pitch archetype, is FIP is less impactful to me. Like, where to the point where I think that, to me, the benefit of having both ERA and FIP is kind of knowing what type of pitchers you're working with. Where I think the more that they lean into the fielding of the team, the less important fielding independent pitching is. But, I mean, he's been very good. Cantorino has been pretty decent, but also pretty lucky. And this is a guy that does want to, like, where this FIP tells me more, I think, than the ERA does, which is why I'm not really considering bringing him up as a starter. Potentially as a reliever, because the stuff is good. But Moran has struggled, which is unfortunate. Sands has been pretty decent as well. I don't think that he is really a starter. I think he's more of a long relief type. So there's definitely an outcome where he comes up and is in the majors as well. And Winder, we've kind of see is there. So that's the current situation with the team. We're kind of heading towards the route that I was hoping that we weren't going to do. I was hoping that we were going to be good and we'd be more aggressive at the trade line, trying to bring in people as opposed to shipping away some pieces. But the White Sox have been much more like what you would have expected them to be like in real life, where they are just a pretty dominant team in the division. Everybody else is below 500. We're barely avoiding last place. And yeah, things are not great in the Twin Cities right now. There's definitely some potential for improvement if our starting pitching can find a way to turn itself around. There's outs here, but it's not great. We completely collapsed without Buxton. We'll get Dobnik back, which I don't even know if that's really that great of a thing that he's going to come back in a week. We'll see. So, yeah, I hope that the next time I see you guys that we'll have a better situation. It'll probably be around the trade deadline, and the MLB draft will be the next video. And yeah, I hope you guys have a good rest of your day. I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.